looking at around the world, including here in New Zealand, and I've heard Cenk Uygur say this a few times, that people vote for change. Like in New Zealand, we had an incredibly successful COVID run under Jacinda Ardern, and enough cookers and, opponents got into that to say, our rights, our liberties, I couldn't buy a coffee, and it worked. The messaging worked, and they voted for change, and we now have a right-wing racist government running this country. I look to the UK, vote for change, those sorts of things. If that was to if that was to show itself in America, of these two candidates, who would be the vote for change?
Yeah. Yes, you're right. Like, that's the question. I mean, it's unclear. I mean, her campaign started off with two things. They're weird. Yep. Speaking of the Republicans, which I thought was actually the first time. I mean, it's so fascinating that they decided to go against it. I mean, it was all the Biden people, but it's so fascinating that they decided to go against that, because it really, I mean, maybe they felt like youth voters aren't going to come out, but it really resonated with young people, because the Republicans are weird in the way that they're anachronistic. Let's put it that way. Yeah. You had Tucker Carlson just at yesterday. I'm sure you maybe have seen this clip where he's talking about like how Trump is like daddy who's come home to spank the teenager daughter who has been naughty.
If you allow people to get away with things that are completely over the top and outrageous, if you allow your 2-year-old to smear the contents of his diapers on the wall of your living room, and you do nothing about it, if you allow your 14-year-old to light a joint at the breakfast table, if you allow your hormone-addled 15-year-old daughter to like slam the door of her bedroom and give you the finger, you're going to get more of it. And those kids are going to wind up in rehab. It's not good for you, and it's not good for them. No. There has to be a point at which dad comes home. Yeah, that's right. Dad comes home. And he's pissed. Dad is pissed. He's not vengeful. He loves his children. Disobedient as they may be, he loves them. Because they're his children, they live in his house. But he's very disappointed in their behavior. And he's going to have to let them know. He's going to have to get to your room right now and think about what you did. And when dad gets home, you know what he says? You've been a bad girl. You've been a bad little girl, and you're getting a vigorous spanking right now.
I mean, this is weird. This is weird, really fundamentalist religious stuff. That's what it is. Yeah. And, but the other aspect, the other thing they had going for them is we're not going back. Yeah. And apparently the Biden people who took over a campaign also said, no, don't do that.
Yeah, because that was strong messaging. I mean, hearing Tim Walz on stage the other day talking about Trump's running mate, Elon Musk, strong messaging. He's a dipshit jumping on. Yeah. That's strong messaging.
But you know what? What he's saying? He's saying that Elon Musk is weird.
Yeah,
I mean, that's exactly. The funny thing is that like he can't help himself because he knows what's connecting with people. Yeah. And the thing that I find just bizarre about why they abandoned, we're not going back does not roll off the tongue when you're chanting it.
Yeah.
But what it does do, and this is why I find it really surprising that the whoever came in and took over a campaign had a problem with it. It does remind you that like, wait, Trump's a retread. Trump is a retread. And, Harris, at least in terms of way they code, you look at Biden and you look at Harris. And, a lot of people, the people who are, undecided, except for maybe, these wayward Republicans, if they exist, I'm not convinced they do.
Right.
But people who are undecided, who consider themselves, apolitical or independent or whatever they call, they're not assessing change based upon policy.
Mm-hmm.
They're not. they're assessing change based upon like, sort of very, what you and I might consider very, very superficial things. They may be meaningful to these people, but I mean, you and I would say like, that has nothing to do with politics. But if old white guy, youngish black woman, I mean, that looks like a change, and yet they also don't want to focus on her. So making it about, we're not going back. What does that literally say? It literally says, he represents not a change. And, that way you keep the focus on him.
Yeah.
But you also sort of imply that you are the only one to represent any type of change, any type of going forward. So I don't know. I thought that was pretty effective, if not, wasn't necessarily the greatest wordsmith stuff. This is, we're not, this is not literature, but I thought it was effective, but we'll see. I mean,
doesn't quite sit like the MAGA on the cap. It's not quite as effective as the MAGA on the cap, and
or si se puede, or whatever it is. Yes, we can. I mean, there's, I like Ike. I mean, this is not roll off the tongue, but.